Hello learners, welcome to the session. Today we will be discussing about challenges to sustainable urbanization. You must have heard this term sustainable urbanization, or you may call it as sustainable urban development. Let us understand first of all what does it mean, what does it encompasses, and then we will look at what are the challenges, what keeps us from achieving these sustainable urbanization. So, sustainable urbanization is actually the practice of building cities that are environmentally friendly, which promote human development and are long lasting. Means we are urbanized, we have all the modern facilities which we expect in the urban areas, but this is not at the cost of environmental degradation, and that is a human cohesion, which we can easily see. It is, as the name indicates, it is sustainable, it is long lasting. What we are seeing today is that our cities or the urban areas are not sustainable. They do not fall under the purview of the sustainable urbanization. Why? Because people are living in pathetic conditions, there are slums all around. We can see huge mountains of trash at the outskirts of the cities. We find huge traffic jams. At the time of the rainfall, we find that our roads are flooded. So, this is not a sustainable urbanization. So, what are the features of sustainable urbanization? Sustainable urbanization, it has reduced environmental damage. It does not pollute. It is not done at the cost of cutting of the trees. It is not done at the floodplains, it is not built on that. So, it prioritizes ecological balance. It has a kind of seeing that the biodiversity, the air in the urban areas, the gardens in the urban areas, they all are well protected. So, it has an emphasis that all the biogeochemical cycles operate well in the urban areas also. It uses green technologies again which are eco-friendly, whether it is for electricity generation or whether it is for commuting of the people, transportation, all the aspects which we find in the cities, it uses green technologies. It is like based on the renewable sources of the energy, maybe it has solar lights for the street lighting and all. And it considers the life cycle, aesthetic, scale and technologies in the development process. So, whoever the city and whatever the aspect it is being developed, for example, if the highway is coming or the airport is coming, it sees to it that it is the whole life cycle, the whole aesthetics of that place, the whole development process is kept in an eco-friendly manner, so that it is not damaging in the long run, and it balances the use and regeneration of the natural resources. So, these are some of the features of the sustainable urbanization which we can see, but the point is that what are the aspects and what are the challenges, why we see today our cities and the urban areas, they are overcrowded, they are full of filth, and the situation is getting from bad to worse every year. We must not forget about sustainable development goal 11, which is make cities inclusive, safe, resilient and sustainable. We know that sustainable development goals have to be achieved by the year 2030, and particularly SDG 11 is based on or is for making cities inclusive, safe, resilient and sustainable. If you look at the target 11.3, it mentions inclusive and sustainable urbanization, which says that by 2030 enhance inclusive and sustainable urbanization and capacity for participatory, integrated and sustainable human settlement planning and management in all the countries. This is one of the issue which has been seen globally, that the cities are not sustainable. Therefore, efforts must be made to see that how we can make look for sustainable urbanization. So, 11.3 target, it specifically mentions about inclusive and sustainable urbanization. What are the approaches? How we can go about it? It is through sustainable urban transport, public transport or the private transport, what kind of fuel it uses, what kind of city planning has been done, how much is the average travel time of the people, climate resilient cities, how do we adapt to the weather extremes and the natural disasters, energy efficient buildings, inclusive cities, eco cities and smart cities. These are some of the facets of sustainable urbanization. Let us see what does sustainable urban transport mean. As it has just now been mentioned, that sustainable urban transport looks into how people are commuting through public transport or private transport. What kind of fuel are they using? Is it polluting, or it is based on, like today we are discussing and we are having electronic vehicles on our roads, although marginal numbers. And how the city planning has been done. Average commute time for a person is how long, how our markets are situated. So, all these comes under sustainable urban transport, and we must see that the transportation network in the city must be easily accessible, affordable, and it operates efficiently, and it also must offer various choices of transport. It shouldn't be burden that you have to use the bus only or the private car only. There should be options that cycle tracks should be there, metro connectivity should be there, likewise other public transportation facilities must be easily door to door available. It limits emissions and waste within the planet's availability to absorb them. There should not be a generation of too much of the pollutants, waste. We just now thought about that how cities are having the trash of mountains trash in the outskirts. It limits consumption of the renewable resources and minimizes the use of land and the production of the noise. So, what kind of city does it appear? Is it very noisy? It is very crowded, there is lot of traffic jams, there is lot of breakdown of the vehicles or lot of noise coming from these vehicles. What kind of city is it? So, this is one of the important aspect. Another aspect is climate resilient cities. In the era of the climate change, it is very common to see that during summers there are heat waves, there are extreme winters, there are floods during the rainy seasons. So, these are actually the consequences of the temperature rise and the climate change phenomena what we are observing today. But in the long run we should see that our cities are climate resilient, and it involves both short term and long term planning. How we are able to mitigate the effects from the fossil fuels or weather conditions. So, one of the important parameter to look at the climate resilient cities is that it must have three essential qualities, that is robustness, redundancy and resourcefulness. Our cities must be designed in a robust manner. There should be city planning in such a way that the connectivity is very nice, where we have wider roads, where people have to people do not have to travel more for essentials, where the schools, gardens, hospitals, etc., other components of the cities, they are well connected and they are situated at the places which is easily accessible. Then there should be redundancy in the fact that the older forms, the ways the earlier motions were there, they should not be discouraged in the present scenario, and there should be resourcefulness, how we are able to trap the sunlight, how we are able to capture the rainwater. So, even urban biodiversity, urban wetlands, these are very they hold a very important place actually for sustainable urbanization. So, we should also look into the urban climatology and the other facets of the urban areas to see that they are made in a manner that they are climate resilient, because we find the cities, there are drowning in floods. There is an electricity cut for long days. There are a lot of mosquitoes breeding, leading to various diseases. So, these type of indicators explain that the city has not been sustainably urbanized. So, there is a need for strengthening of the infrastructure and the services. Proper land use planning must be done. City or the region specific climate stressors must be studied with the help of climate data. Which areas are prone to landslides, where there is a chances of fires may be taking place, or where there are chances of areas getting flooded. So, preparing and implementing strategies for reducing vulnerability to climate change is very important, and therefore, one of the important aspect of developing the climate resilient cities is to carefully study the disaster plan, the disaster management plan, the various components of this thing. Another aspect is energy efficient cities, how our energy consumption is based on. Is it based on the fossil fuels or the polluting sources of energy, or we are also using the solar energy, wind energy, vertical gardens. These are some of the aspects where the rapidly growing cities can achieve energy efficiency and energy saving, and they can reduce cost and emissions with the help of various interventions which are very, very essential. So, every region has a potential for development of the renewable sources of the energy. These resources must be tapped carefully, so that we have utilization of the solar energy for our buildings, for our homes, for our different infrastructures in our cities. So, using energy efficient devices is also very important, and the urban planning should be done in such a way that it promotes compact and mixed use neighborhoods, where walking is easy, cycling, public transport, all these things are very easy. Then only we can save energy at various steps, and we can say that we have energy efficient cities, and that is one of the important aspects of sustainable urbanization. Then the cities must be inclusive. So, an inclusive city is a concept that advocates the development of urban spaces in such a way that they take into account social, economical and the spatial factors also. When we say social exclusion, it means that cities should be planned and designed in such a way that all sections of the society, irrespective of their age, gender, caste, region or the economic status, they are intermediate, they are inclusive. All the facilities must be available to everyone despite their social status or the economic status. Then spatial inclusion implies that basic amenities, for example, airport, railway station, important markets, they should be situated in such a way that they are easily accessible to all. It should not be far away, it should not be too much in a too much congested place. So, while planning urban areas or while we are designing our cities, it is very important to look into the spatial inclusion also, and economic inclusion means that the residents of the cities must not be devoid on the basis of their economic status to any job or any other facility which the urban area is providing. So, that will make a city inclusive, where everybody has equal access to all the facilities which are being offered in the urban areas. So, an eco cities is term you must have heard about, which we are aiming for and which we see in the form of the construction of the vertical gardens and other urban greens in the urban areas. So, the idea is to see that the settlement is such which uses the resources which are found locally, the local produce, the urban agriculture, the locally fruits, flowers, what they are producing, they should be able to sell it in the nearby markets. So, they do not have to depend on the long way transport to get these essentials, and it also eliminates all the waste and relies on the renewable resources. So, effort should be made to develop the eco cities which are environmentally friendly and which do not degrade the nature and its various components. Then smart cities, you must have heard about the smart cities, which uses the applications of ICT to improve provisioning and management of the basic services, so that it improves the efficiency and livability in a city. So, we in 2015 India launched its smart cities mission, and it offers to develop 100 existing smart cities across the country, which would be smart in that sense that they will have more integration and penetration of ICT for various urban services which the city provides. So, we look forward to development of the smart cities, which will pave the way for sustainable urbanization. But as we have seen in every step, there are certain critical issues which need to be addressed before we aim for sustainable urbanization. The problem is we have poor local governance at various places, where they do not have any say in the decision making, they are not fully powered, they do not have funds, like weak finances. The finance plays a major bottleneck when it comes to development of the infrastructure for controlling air pollution or managing waste in a city, and there is inappropriate planning, because many of the times our cities are developed in haste, which in the long term create more problems than solutions. And there are shortage of critical infrastructure in cities. We know that the gardens are not there, playgrounds are not there, hospitals are located far away. So, these are some of there are certain infrastructures which are critical, which are very important for everybody who is living there, and there is lack of them at various places, and environment deterioration is very common, whether it is air pollution, noise pollution, water pollution. So, these are the upcoming problems, and the city actually struggles in the times of summers. There is water scarcity, it is not able to provide water to the people. Then there is pollution, then there is other things which are related to social aspect. So, all these things coming up and pose a challenge towards the achievement of sustainable development. So, there are challenges in the planning stage, various urban environments lack of proper planning, there is multiplicity of bodies, state governments, central governments, different national bodies, local bodies, and the working gets affected. Housing is an issue, because you must have heard about various news about the problem of housing, the struggle for housing, people are forced to sleep on the pavements. This is not a good situation, where in the urban areas you find very good buildings, illuminating buildings, and on the other hand we have slums where people are living in pathetic conditions, which are becoming the breeding grounds for the various diseases. So, housing is a major issue. Then delivery is not so appropriate, because most services are delivered by the city governments. So, they do not have much accountability. There is a strong bias towards addressing physical infrastructure rather than giving them opportunities to grow themselves. So, financially, environmentally sustainable services are less provided, because whenever we talk about developing a city, we talk about building something, some infrastructure. So, that is not a sustainable solution, and service providers are unable to recover operations and depend on the government for the various support. And infrastructure, as we have said, that whether it is transportation or it is housing or water supply or municipal services, the infrastructure is not so well equipped. We are still using the outdated technologies, outdated methods to address our various social issues in the urban areas, and therefore, that needs to be improved. environment is deteriorating, as we have seen discussed just now. So, how we can achieve sustainable urbanization? This is very important. One of the most important thing is that we need to plan in an integrated manner. When we are able to see that there will be different sections of the people who will be living in the urban areas, there will be different type of jobs, there will be different type of markets. So, there should be a common vision for their development. So, planning should be done in an integrated manner, and another thing is that there are different decision makers for a city. So, a holistic perspective is to be developed, and every agency, every body should come together actually to devise a strategy for the overall. But what happens actually is that there is a multiplicity of roles, responsibilities, there is a clash, and therefore, the result is that the city is not developed in a proper manner, sustainable manner. Then governance plays a very important role, because good governance actually is that which takes an active interest in the affairs of the city, in the governance and management of the city. So, what are the issues which are faced in the urban areas, what are the challenges. So, the government at the, of course, at the municipal level, at the state level, they should be playing an active role, taking a keen interest and devising appropriate innovative solutions, so that the citizens or the people who are living in the urban areas, they are able to utilize all the services. And one of the important aspect is that while the governance is important, equally important is to take the note of the people who are living in those areas. So, involving them in the decision making is also very important. Then urban design is important, how we are looking forward in the years to come. We should study the demography, what kind of area is it? It is an industrial area, it is a historical area, is it a tourist area, what kind of area is it? What are the avenues, what are the prospects of that particular city in the years to come? What is the population? Is it an aging population? It is an expanding population. So, likewise the urban design should be done. However, it is not done. Many a times we just go on for construction of the roads or building of the flyovers or some hospitals coming, but we must also see that what is the demography, what kind of region is this, is it not that the people are migrating from there, or people are coming, or new industries coming up. Does this fall under the smart cities mission of the government? This is very important while we design our cities. Finance is very important because it uses green finance, how we are carbon credits and taxes, and this is very important, that newer terms coming up. So, it includes environmental, social and governance criteria, that the ESG you must be aware of, that is taken into consideration. Environmental compliances is very important when we look at the finances, environmental impact assessment. These are the things, these are the issues which must be taken care of, and when we think about them, it is actually for the sustainable development of the urban areas. Then there is lot of requirement for investing in the renewable sources of the energy, like solar energy, wind energy, hydrogen is also coming up as a potential energy resources. That is important to look into these sources of the energy. And in every city, it is seen that the companies, the multinationals are coming, they are investing. So, when they are polluting, according to the polluter pays principle, it is very much important for them to pay for the pollution which they are doing. If the trees are being cut, if the land is being cleared, if the region is an eco-sensitive region, then the polluters must be made to pay. This awareness is very much important. So, we should not be in line with the companies, or it should not be, the corruption actually should not come at this stage where we are designing our cities. So, if a company is coming with a mining project, or it is coming with any new developmental project, we must check whether environmental compliances are made or not, and if it is harmed at any stage, the polluter, they must pay for that, they must compensate for that. And social impact bonds, these are the private funding for public infrastructure and services which may be taken care of to develop the city which is robust, which is sustainable in the long run. So, we can conclude that sustainable urbanization is essential to achieve sustainable development goals by 2030. The challenges towards sustainable urbanization are many, but through proper planning, education, awareness, decentralization and stakeholder participation, the hindrances can be overcome. Thank you.